it's so in body, but it's like outer body.
It's both.
And that's what I feel when I'm like in spaces like Carnival or in spaces like the Uber Soca Cruise. It's like it does when you like use the word healing, it's like that's some of it, but there's something else. It does something to me. Like
it's actually spiritual.
It's spiritual. It's like a spiritual connection.
It is.
So people some women in my studies like will say that like I felt the ancestors with us on board. Like I felt them. Like I felt them with us. And I believe them because I felt ancestors too. Like it cannot be, I know in my body that it's like not just me and other people. There's like more than human people present. I know that. I feel it.
Okay, so we're here with another episode of In We Blood, the podcast that's dedicated to helping to reignite an appreciation for Caribbean culture and traditions throughout the diaspora. My name's Kiana. So I'm here today with Jade, a Ph.D. candidate at University of Toronto, Women and Gender Studies Institute, yeah. Right? Studying about the relationship between Black women in the Atlantic Ocean, particularly on Uber Soca Cruise.
Correct, yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool to see like ourselves, our stories and our experiences in academia because they're so valid.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about like what inspired you to take that on as like a PhD or a dissertation study.
Yeah. So I wanted initially, this is like a long-winded story, but I think we have time. So I had started my PhD and wanted to do a completely different project.
Okay.
I want to think about like particular Black communities in Toronto. And a PhD is such a long process. I told you before, I was like, it's like 5 years. People spend longer than that. And it was just not, the project that I initially wanted to do wasn't something that I really was like invested in.
Yeah.
It was just something that I was like,
I can do that.
This.
Yeah.
But I was like, not about that life. And so I was a person who was going to Carnival. I was a woman that was going to Carnival. And I was like, this is like a beautiful space for me. And this is a beautiful space for people that I love. And this is a beautiful space for Black people. And in the academy, especially in like, we're in Toronto, a lot of people, I'm kind of jumping around, but in the department, I was in a sociology department. And there wasn't a lot of people talking about the Caribbean region.
Yeah.
So in the current program that I am in Women Gender Studies, there are like many Caribbean feminist or Caribbean transnational feminist scholars, and they know about Carnival. A lot of them are from Trinidad.
Do you know, I'm sorry, this is so random. I went to UTM. Do you know?
Trotz?
No. Professor Lord?
Yeah, that's my supervisor.
You're lying. I love her so much.
Yeah.
This is like organic moment
Dr.
we would have had off camera, but I love her so much. Can you please tell her that Kiana said hi?
Yes, I will.
When I was pregnant in my final year, she sent me books for my son.
Shut up.
I love her.
I
have tingles
beautiful
right now. She has the blocks.
Yeah, blonde locks.
Yes.
Yeah, she's one of my, so I have three supervisors, I have one supervisor and three committee members, and she's one of my committee members. So she's my third committee member.
I'm so excited about that.
So that's exactly that. So that's one of the reasons why I knew that the work that I want to do on Carnival would be appreciated and valued by scholars who are also doing work.
She's from Trinidad.
My work came about, like the work that I do on Carnival came about because it was a space, like I knew that I could do work with Black women, with Black gender nonconforming folks that go to Carnival, with queer Black folks that go to Carnival. And that could be something that I did for a long period of time. And my heart would be in it, you know? And then when I went to Uber Soca, because there's work on Carnival, there's studies on Carnival, there's like there's Carnival studies in like, that is a subfield of Caribbean studies. But when I went to Uber Soca, I was like, this is like another space that like, because Uber Soca started in 2016. So, and there hasn't been research that is done about Uber Soca because it just kind of started,
it's new.
Know? So I was like, oh, this is like a place where I feel like the most beautiful version of myself. Like I feel good. I feel so connected. And I was like, this is something that I can like do work on for a long while. Like I know that this is something that I want to do work on for a long while. So yeah, I know that was kind of like long-winded.
No, that's okay. That's amazing. So you said you felt good when you were like on the ship?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Like what do you mean like you felt good?
And I know that sounds like so cheese. Like
That's
I felt good. But it actually matters so much to me that I feel good in places.
Likewise.
Because there's so many places where I don't feel good and that are purposely made to make me feel bad. Purposely made, or spaces that are and places that are purposely created without me in mind. And so when I go to places like Carnival that are created with Black women or Black people in mind, or when I go to places like Uber Soca Cruise, I felt like this place was created with me in mind.
You felt seen?
I felt seen. I felt beautiful, and not like beautiful both in like appearance, which is like super vain, but in appearance, but also like in my skin and in my body and like in the air. I just felt like a beautiful person walking around. And that, I know that wasn't a singular experience. I know that it wasn't a singular experience. It wasn't just my own experience, because I had friends that were there that were also like, we were feeling beautiful together.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know more about this place that made me feel good, because I knew that I wasn't the only one experiencing that. I want to hear from others, like what were they experiencing in their body? Like how were they feeling in their body? If I know I felt so good. I know people around me felt good. I want to like have conversations with people about feeling that kind of good. You know, and also just like going to a place as a person who really loves soca. Yeah. Going to a place where you're hearing soca all day, all night. You know, like there's like announcements in the morning from like Very Hype. It's like, get up. I can't speak patois, but like it's just playing soca, talking, saying things that are related to soca. You're hearing soca in the hallways. You're like feting all day, all night. Like I would go to bed at like 2 a.m. to have like a nap for an hour and wake up at 4 and there'd still be a fet happening. So there's just like all these things. There's also like all these like Caribbean cultural events, like or like a session about
like
hair.
Panel events.
Yeah,
and
like
stuff?
yeah. There's like panels. There was like panels with like soca artists. There's like dinners. There's comedy shows. There's like all these cultural events that are like really beautiful, that like just bring us together in this particular kind of way.
I literally thought it was just fets that happened on Uber Soca Cruise.
There's like a bunch of other things, and I actually learned about the other things because I didn't go to all of them, because I was fetting the whole time. Yeah. But I learned about them because of my participants. They'd be like, yeah, we went to cooking competition and there was like the judges were soca artists.
What do you mean your participants? Like you were already engaging in the study before you went on the cruise?
No. Like, I mean, like I learned about the other kind of events that happen on the cruise as I was like doing my research. Because during conversations with participants, they were like, I did this and I did that. And I'm like, where was I? Like were we on the same boat? Because I didn't know that was happening at all. Okay. There was like rum tastings, all these things that like people were telling me that they did. And I was like, huh? Like,
you know what's so interesting about this when we're talking about like Black women and water and just like feeling good in your body in that space? It reminds me of my friend, where one of her things that she always promotes is healing in community, and that healing does not happen on an individual level. It always happens in community. So based on what you're saying, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that cruise felt like a safe space for a lot of people.
It felt safe to me in a lot of ways, and that's actually really important that you like highlighted that. And I think that feeling safe, like I'm not saying that they're both perfect, like I'm not saying that like we can't escape things like sexual violence and things like that, like we know that that's like rampant, you know, in the Caribbean community and elsewhere and in Carnival. And there were moments where dudes were like not listening to me.
Sorry, it's not funny, but you're just funny.
We're like, so one of the actually opening stories that I haven't written yet, but I will write for my dissertation, is how I met my friend Abby. And I'm using a pseudonym, which is like a fake name, not for like confidentiality. But I met my friend Abby because I was like on the first night of the cruise, and I'll get back to your question about safety, because I was like, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
You should go wherever you want. Listen, you're the one who was studying Uber Soca Cruise and the whole works behind it. Take it wherever you want to take it.
I'm gonna tell this story and then I'll answer your question. Thank you.
It's my podcast. It's my episode. It's my time to shine.
Let me shine. So I went with two of my girls, and they wanted to sleep the first night because they were tired, and I was like, I didn't come from Canada to like sleep on the first night, and it was an all white fet, so I was like, bye, I'm gonna go to fet. But I felt obviously like nervous. I was on this big boat with people I didn't know. So I went to the first thing I did when I got to like the top deck where the party was like head straight to the bar. So I like when I got to the bar, I saw this woman and she was like sitting at the bar and like we smiled at each other. And then I like went about my business. So I ordered my drink, whatever. And this guy was like, can I buy you a drink? And I'm like, no, like I have one. Like I'm real good. Like I already ordered my own drink. Thank you, independent woman. Anyways, he did not listen. He was like, let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink. And so the woman that I had seen that I'd shared a glance with and a smile, she's like, she bought her drink. If you want to buy her a drink, get her one tomorrow. But she has her drink. Mm-hmm. So she like intervened because he was literally not listening to me. So we ended up talking, and she was from Toronto, and we like that was like the beginning of this beautiful friendship we created. Since then, we've been to like Trinidad Carnival, we went to Jamaica Carnival.
What?
We've been to Ibiza Soca Festival. Like
what the heck?
So it's just like this. And that's a part of the reason what I meant, like when I felt good, it's like, oh, like I met all these, and that's a huge part of my work too, is like thinking about like the friendships that were created in this place, the love that kind of grew, the love that was able to grow in this place. And then I tell that story because I'm thinking about safety and like this man not listening to me. So that's how I met my friend Abby. But thinking about safety, I think it's really important, at least for me, I'm going to speak for myself. I think safety and what, not only for myself, but what participants in my study have been indicating is that feeling safe and also feeling seen and feeling desirable, and not just for men, just like desirable to like each other, desirable like as beautiful Black women. That matters. And I think safety has a big part to do with how we feel, right? Like I feel so connected. Personally, I feel so connected on boat, connected to water, connected to my body, connected to other people, because my body's able to relax in a particular kind of way. There's like no threats that I perceive in a particular moment where my body can really relax. And that matters so much because so many of the places in this world on land are hinge upon the harm that it causes to our bodies, you know? Like, so I think that that's a really important aspect.
So just based on what you're saying with your study and Black women and the Atlantic Ocean, like what is the connection between that and what you got from your participants or what you observed?
I think that the Atlantic Ocean, because Uber Soca Cruise is on the Atlantic Ocean, and you gave me the language for this, like hidden in plain sight. So it was like obvious that the cruise was on the like moving along the Atlantic Ocean, but it wasn't something that I really was considering as like super. I like love the Atlantic Ocean. It's meaningful because I think of it as like a place where slavery happened.
Yeah.
A place where my ancestors had to go, or they traveled through. I don't know where they traveled from.
Yeah.
And the kind of different journeys they took to get to the Caribbean region. But I know that my ancestors moved through that place, that site. And so because of slavery and all that's been lost, all the history that's been lost, I know that that is a site where that I know someone that was related to me at one point moved through that water, you know, which is like devastating at the same time that it's beautiful. It's a memory for me. And so when I was talking with Black women, they would often talk to me about sitting with the water, like taking time away from like the busyness of the Soca Cruise and like going to sit by the water, and just like feeling stillness for a little bit, or talking with participants that were from the Caribbean region and being like, oh, water is such a big facet of our life, especially the Atlantic, because they're like in the Caribbean region, or the Caribbean Sea. And there's other women who were like from the diaspora. One participant lives in the diaspora. She lives in Toronto, or actually not in Toronto, the outskirts of Toronto. And she's like, there's this pond by my place, and I just love this pond. It means so much to me. So when I'm thinking about, there's often this idea that like Black people don't have relationships with water. And when I was talking to Black women in my study, I was like, no, Black women are telling me that they have deep and intense and beautiful relationships with water. And so much of the kind of narration of our relationships with water aren't told by us and are often have to do with swimming. Like if we can swim or not. And if we can't swim, then we'd have no relationship with water. And what I learned from Black women in my study is that like it's irregardless of relation. Obviously, like some people have like traumatic stories of like drowning and stuff, which shape their relationships to water. But in my study, a lot of people, a lot of Black women were saying that they have like deep connections to water. And that to me is meaningful because they continue to go back to this place in the ocean. So many of the days that we're on Uber Soca Cruise, we're at sea. And during the time that I went, we were mostly at sea. We went to one destination for like 8 hours, like a day. And then we'd get back on the boat and we'd be at sea again. So what it revealed to me is that like Black women are there's so much Black women are wanting to go back to the ship for, but a part of it is the water. Like to be with the Atlantic in a particular kind of way, to sit with the water in a particular kind of way. And that matters. Like that matters. It matters that the Atlantic is a place where Black women feel that they can go to feel good.
There's so many layers to that, because I'm just thinking about conversations that I've been having recently around water and kind of like the spiritual aspects of water. So it's interesting to hear your account and the accounts of your participants feeling like they made sure to be intentional to take time to be with that water. And then it makes me think about my own experiences with water, where I just think like, oh yeah, like it's a normal thing to just sit and to just be with the water, to listen to the water, to watch how it flows and things like that. But when you're talking about it in the lens of like Black women's experiences and maybe Black people's experiences in general and like our connection to water, it's just kind of, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, is this an overall human experience? Is this intensified in our consciousness or beingness, or is this, and it's just so interesting to hear that you took so much time and did all this study with these people to figure out what their experience was on Uber Soca Cruise. It's like you have the healing from the music, the healing from being in community, or like the feeling goodness, however you want to describe it, from the music, from being in community. And then you have the other layer where it's like you're surrounded and like by the water.
Yeah. And so in my study, I'm building on the work of a scholar named Omasike Natasha Tinsley. This concept that I'm going to share, it's called feeling and feeling with. It's kind of concept I'm thinking through in my dissertation. It's like very, very early. So I'm thinking with you out loud and like a way that's like really, really raw.
Yeah.
But I'm building on Dr. Tinsley's work, and she basically is talking about the Atlantic Ocean. And she's responding to a Caribbean scholar named Paul Gilroy, who theorizes the Atlantic Ocean as the Black Atlantic. And she's saying in the most gentle, beautiful way that like the Black Atlantic is not just a metaphor. It is also a place where like real enslaved people existed and moved through. And the one of the beautiful things about it's like really she's really reckoning with the brutality of slavery, the violence and terror of slavery. And one of the things that one of the interventions of that piece, it's called Black Atlantic, Queer Atlantic, either or. But one of the things the intervention that enslaved Black people, particularly Black women, intervened on their own dehumanization. So they pushed, one of the ways they pushed back on being made human property, or being made total commodity, like being totally objectified is by feeling and feeling for. So feeling in their bodies and feeling for their other shipmates, their other enslaved people in the hold of the slave ship. Part of the way that they rejected total dehumanization was to feel, because the kind of project of enslavement was to like totally dehumanize people, right? And there's so many layers and so many ways we can think about the project of slavery besides dehumanization, or it's so intricate and complicated. But part of what she's saying that like feeling in our bodies is what was a way that we like combated being turned into what she calls brute matter. And so for me, I'm thinking about the ways that Black women have in my study are like, I feel with the water. So you mentioned like feeling, like you go and you said it so beautifully, but like you go and to the water and you like feel stillness, or you feel like you like are really really reflective, or you're like looking at the waves and you just feel peace. It's like part of the way that we feel is so deeply shaped by the water on the boat. Part of the way that we feel is so deeply shaped by our feeling connected with other people. Part of the way we feel is also deeply shaped by being connected with our own bodies. It's like feeling so deeply
like
inside.
While you're talking, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm thinking about how this is so funny. It's just like, but I'm thinking about how our bodies are supposed to be like 80% water. And then we go and we be with the water, but then we also have this history of traveling across that same water. And it's just like all these layers of water. And what I'm thinking about is when we find time to go and be with the water, is that like our reset button? Because it actually, like, it feels so good. I remember even when I went to Grenada, like, we found a river and I was just sitting and just taking in the river, and I'm like, this is so, just the sound. It's like what the experience of natural living water is, like a full sensory experience. You know, and it's, I don't know, I'm just thinking, I'm like, does this like vibrationally adjust?
It does something for me, and like I don't know physiology. I don't know the science behind like what water does, like being with water does, but I know how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And that to me is a way that we know. Like, it's a way that we know ourselves in the world. So another thing that I'm doing in my work, it sounds so like arrogant to be like, well, this is what I'm doing in my work. But
no, but you're the one doing it.
I know.
I don't know anyone else who's doing a PhD studying Black women and Uber Soca Cruise and water. Like, it's cool. So it is your work.
I appreciate that. So another thing that I'm thinking about in my work is building on the work of Audre Lorde, who's a Caribbean transnational feminist, and then an Indigenous feminist. She's Athabascan. Her name's Diane Milian, and they, both of them in their own ways, articulate feeling, like what's felt in the body, as like a form of knowledge.
For sure.
So like what we feel tells us about the world. What we feel shapes our decision making in the world. And so for me, part of the kind of concept of feeling and feeling with is that we know, because water makes us feel good, because being with friends who are like good to us makes us feel good, because soca music makes us feel good, we continue to go back.
Because it's just layered feeling good. It's just a height.
Yeah, it's like, and it like, it's, I grew up Pentecostal.
Yeah. So like we believe in the Holy Ghost. And I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be like seeking after the Holy Ghost. I know I'm not in the church like that no more, but like, I know what it feels like to be singing within my congregation and with my church people to the Lord and praising this like, this being that is like so much bigger than me and that I like know shapes my life. Like, I know the feeling and how good that feels for me. It's like out of body. It's like it's so in body, but it's like outer body. It's both.
And that's what I feel when I'm like in spaces like Carnival or in spaces like the Uber Soca Cruise. It's like it does when you like use the word healing. It's like that's some of it, but there's something else. It does something to me. Like I can like.
It's actually spiritual.
It's spiritual. It's like a spiritual connection.
It is.
So people some women in my studies like will say that like, I felt the ancestors with us on board. Like I felt them. Like I felt them with us, and I believe them because I felt ancestors too. Like it cannot be. I know in my body that it's like not just me and other people. There's like more than human people present. I know that. I feel it.
Oh my God, that is like literally about to make me start crying, because just thinking about how they, and if that's like an experience that everybody's feeling, thinking about how our ancestors came across those same waters and the feelings that they were feeling then, and then to see the future generations come across the same waters and to be able to celebrate what you're feeling now and to fet with you and that's a huge, that's like DNA, like down to like your because you know, like they say like different things are stored in our DNA or whatever. So it's like, yeah, maybe like parts of the DNA where the ancestors remember crossing there are getting activated and they're present, and even like ethereally or spiritually. And it's just like,
and there is like, so there's a scholar named Christina Sharp, and she talks about in her book In the Wake, she talks about this thing called residence time. I draw on her work and her conceptualization of residence time in my dissertation. And so basically what she's saying is that like in the Atlantic Ocean, our ancestors, enslaved people that like were tossed overboard, that jumped overboard, that were like flung overboard, their bodies are held in the salt of the Atlantic Ocean for millions of years. And so if we were to think about the Atlantic Ocean not having, but holding Black life, holding the life of the enslaved people through salt, then they're there. They're still there.
Oh my goodness.
And so like, what does that mean to be in a place where our ancestors are still living through the salt of the Atlantic Ocean? Like they're there. And I also think about this work of Jackie Alexander, who like talks about like the sacred, like the spirits who made the crossing with us, or the spirits, like I believe that spirits are still there. Like it's, well, and that's like people may not believe in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sacred
yeah,
or spirits, but I do. And so when participants are telling me that they feel ancestors with them, I believe them. And for me, that's like, I want to take that seriously. Like, that's like means so much to me as like an emerging scholar. Like, that is like, I want to tell those stories. I want those stories. That's like theorizing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I knew we were going to chat, but I knew it was going to be deep, but I didn't realize how deep that it gets. Like, I literally don't even know where to take it from now. So I can let you be the director again.
I don't know where to take it either, girl. But I think it's funny because it's not funny at all. Maybe it's not funny, but it's funny that you're saying that because I had a few segments in when I was doing interviews, and one of them, like the final questions that I would ask in the interview was like, I'm gonna get this so wrong because I haven't looked at that interview guide in ages, but I would ask like, what does it mean to you? This is what I ask our participants, like, what does it mean to you to be on this cruise, like where like with people who you love and with your friends, and like carrying on, getting on bad, knowing the history of transatlantic slavery, like knowing that like our ancestors are like were carried along these same waters. What does it mean to you? And people would have that kind of like same reaction, like, oh, like this is so deep, like I never thought about this.
And this whole, it's so funny, I'm always talking about how I get tingles. This entire time we're talking, there's certain things that you're saying that my body's just like bzz, bzz.
And that's how I feel on the boat. Like that's how I feel on the boat, and also how I felt in the interview and how I feel now.
It's just like activation.
It is activation, and it's like memory. It's like remembering.
Yeah, but it's like memories that you don't know are there.
Yeah, that are just like held, that we hold.
The heck?
And then when we go to these spaces, like you feel them again.
Yeah. You're convincing me to go on Uber Soca Cruise on
Honestly,
and it's so funny. Listen.
It's a time.
You're convincing me on like a deep level.
You're gonna go there and be like, "Where is the feeling? So
what the hell was she talking about?
Where's the feeling? There's a feeling." But this is it, right? So like when I was asking that question, this intense question.
Yeah.
People were like, "Girl, I wasn't thinking about that."
Yeah.
And that, so for me, I went in thinking that like people were having this like deep, like looking at the Atlantic, and some people were like, yeah, I like looked at the Atlantic and thought about this briefly, but like that's not what I was there for. And for me, that was like, I love that. I love that for Black people. I love that for Black women, because so often when we're on land, we're reminded, we're dehumanized. Mm-hmm. We're reminded of our Blackness in like the most violent ways. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, when people were responding to me that way, at first I was like, oh, this is like, I'm surprised that you're surprised about my question, you know? Like, But then I was like, oh, I love that Black women are telling me that they're not thinking about anti-Blackness on this boat. Mm-hmm. Because they don't have to. And that is beautiful to me. It's like beautiful that Black women can go to this place where they don't feel like they have to like contend with anti-Blackness.
Yeah. And that's so funny because, well, again, it's not funny, but that's something that I was hearing, that's people's experiences when they go to Africa, and I think the Caribbean, but specifically Africa, where it's like, I'm not a Black woman. I'm just a woman, right? And it's so interesting to hear that. That's kind of the same thing that's happening on this cruise. But another thing that I was saying in conversation earlier this week is that a lot of people and everybody just wants to feel seen, like capital S, and feel like they have their people who get it. And so Uber Soca Cruise, based on what you're saying, is kind of creating that space for people to feel seen, to feel like, yeah, we get it. And then there's just the other aspects that just come along with being, and I don't even think the organizers or anything were thinking that deeply. They're just like, or maybe they were.
Who knows? But that's the space that they created, right?
Yeah.
And which is so beautiful. And I think it's actually really important that you talked about like feeling seen. And on the Uber Soca Cruise, from what my participants had like shared with me, and also what I've experienced myself, is that you can just be who you are. And obviously there's people that are going to judge you wherever you are, but there was like a lack of, one of my participants, how she phrased it was like, there's no gaze. There's like no, the boat's just free of gazes. So you can just like be and dress how you want.
I love that.
And that for a lot of people is like so liberating.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like liberating to be in a space where you know that you're not like you're not cowering or made to feel small.
Yeah. I love that. And for me, that just like when you were speaking, it just makes me think about how a lot of our culture when it comes to carnival and it comes to fetting and stuff like that is just like free up. Like just free up yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just feels like this boat ride and the experience that a lot of people were having was just like free up on so many levels. Yeah.
And that matters.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah.
Especially in a world that is structured to tell us to not free up.
Yeah.
That is structured, like literally slavery was like total absolute control of Black bodies and Black people. Absolute domination. Total objectification.
It's so interesting how my brain can like switch to academia, because then that makes you think of like free up the radical whatever the resistance of Caribbean people against. But it's like it feels like, oh, like you're just trying to, but no, like that's actually
and for me, like what I'm trying to think about, and I have to think more about this and like write more about this to like think more deeply about it, but I'm trying to think about like, is this resistance, like is this place a place of resistance at the same time that I'm like, oh, like is this just a place where Black people can be and
I think it's just a place where,
and that is also beautiful too, right? Like we're not always having to bump up against stuff and like push back all the time. Like it's beautiful to have a space where we can just like go and be as like whatless and as bad, like, and be as like, you know, like carry on as like wild as we want to. Like that is also something important.
Yeah. But it's just so crazy that a few of your participants were saying that they were feeling like ancestors there with them. Like what? Like what?
Imagine.
I'm sold, eh?
Like honestly, it's a time. I went 3 years in a row. Like I just like couldn't get enough.
They need to sign you up with the ambassadorship.
And you know what? They have this thing called the DAM program. That ain't missing me. I'm saying it's mind me in my non-Caribbean accent. Oh my God, everybody's gonna drag me. Anywho, that ain't missing me. But they have the DAM program and people sign up on board to go to the next one. I don't know if it's still a thing, but that was like a big thing on my last year. Like people were signing up on board to be able to go again the next time.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go on the Uber Soca Cruise now.
It is so good.
It's funny because I was talking to somebody who was saying, oh, me and my friends we want to go on the Uber Soca Cruise. And I was like, I don't know. Like I've always just kind of seen it and been like, oh, like that looks like fun. But I never really thought like, yeah, let me go on that.
It is so amazing because you are just, for me, I'm going to talk for myself and people that I've talked to in my study, you're just like so present. And that's like, that matters too. Like you're just so present. Like I don't know if cruises have like stepped their game up, but at the time I went, like my Wi-Fi wasn't working, so I couldn't really talk to outside people.
Okay.
So you're like really in the moment. Like time feels like so warped. Like I didn't have a good sense of time. You're just like wanting to be present in a way that like made me feel so much more, like it enhanced the connections that I was able to make and feel with the water and feel in my body and feel with people that I met. Like it felt like I knew Abby, the woman that I met at the beginning, for so much longer than I had known her. I was only on the boat for like 4 or 5 days.
Oh my gosh, what if I don't even care what anyone thinks. What if it was like all the people that like get attracted onto Uber Soca Cruise at that time that you went on were like old souls reconnecting or something like that, you know?
It could have been.
It could have been something like that. Because all of you guys were, well, based on the people that you talked to in your study or whatever, like the participants were having like similar experiences. And I don't know if that's the case on every single Uber Soca Cruise.
I don't know. I don't know, but I do know that the people that I talked to and people that I didn't talk to that are just like my homies that all went there with the love of soca. So like all went there with like this deep desire to have like fun, this deep desire to have like a good experience. Yeah. And I think that also shapes the vibes that are on board.
Because it's just everybody's going in with a heights.
Everyone's going in with something. And like for me, when the first time I went, I didn't, and the second or the third, I didn't go in with expectations. I just like went in to have a time. Yeah. And the time I did have, like it was just so good. Yeah. Because everyone's on this high.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting is when, like, okay, it's one thing if you're on a heights, but then when there's someone else, it's just like
it spreads.
And then when it's all of us, it's just
like it's like it's wild. And when I say like it's a feeling, like it matters so much to me. Like I want, like, who doesn't want to feel that?
Yeah. Oh my God. The other day I was feeling so good. I was like, God, I wish I could just bottle this up and just like.
And people talk about that. Like, I wish I could bottle it up. I wish I could like. So people have different like saying in my study have different things for it, but like bottling it up was one of them. Like I just wish I could bottle up and like open the bottle whenever I need like
when you need a boost.
When you need a boost, because that's what it does. It like does something. Yeah. And a lot of people like the Uber Soca Cruise is one stop along a carnival circuit. So people like will go to Uber Soca Cruise, but they also go to like a lot of people go to different carnivals. I'm not sure now. I used to go to like different carnivals. I'm like my therapist calls me retired carnivaler, but like but people like go to one thing per year sometimes if you're in the carnival scene, right? And that like sustains people because it like gives you what you need, and then like it lasts you until the next one, and then you get your like fill, and then it lasts you to the next one. And that matters. In this world, it's hard. This world is like hard. It is hard.
That is a good effing point about getting what you need from the carnival and then it lasting until the next. And trust me, when you get to the next one,
you're like, I needed it. And then you like wait until the next one.
Yeah.
And the next vibe. It's like catching vibes. You're just like waiting for the next vibe.
Oh my gosh, we're literally vibe harvesting.
Yeah, no, like literally like vibe catchers. Like just give me vibes. Like just give me vibes. I need the vibes.
Yeah. That's so incredible to think about it in this way. You know, it's just like, yeah, we go down and have our vibes. Like, it's like heights. Like,
yeah.
But you don't really take in like all the layers to it and all the, I don't know. It's just the best ever. And what you're describing that you feel on Uber Soca Cruise is legitimately how I feel every time I go to Grenada. I don't care. I'll big up Grenada on every episode. I say this all the time.
Grenada is like, you know how people talk about like the Mecca and Medina of Carnival is Trinidad and Tobago? Yeah. Like I really, for me, feel like it might be Grenada. And I haven't been yet. Sorry. I mean, like, I love Trinidad and Tobago, obviously.
Are you Trini?
No.
Okay.
I'm St. Lucian and Jamaican. Nice. Yeah.
But have you been to Trinidad Carnival?
I have.
Okay. Yeah. And you haven't been to Spice Mass?
No, I haven't.
Well, when you're ready, I'm here.
I want to go so bad. Like,
when you're ready,
I just want to go, but I feel like the prices are just kind of outrageous.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, just like,
to get there,
like,
to get there.
So
yeah, just to get there. Air Canada had flights stopping March 31st. Yes, I did email them asking them.
Not email.
Yep. Air Canada Reservations replied to one of my earlier complaints, okay, where I got my money back. Just so you guys know, if your flight is delayed by a certain amount of time, or if you choose not to continue with a canceled flight, those of us in Canada have air passenger protection rights. Look that up. You can get money because, yes, Air Canada refunded me paid me $400 on top of that refund. I was in the airport crying. They better pay me. Anyways.
I'm so happy that you got that.
My flight got canceled and I was well bawling. It wasn't too I was trying to go to Miami for a conference.
But who cares? How do you mean? You know when you're ready to go something and then the airplane.
Check me with my suitcase. My mom was there with, anyways.
I would have cried too.
I was crying.
I would cry too.
But I don't remember what I was going to say. So I also messaged the operations manager on LinkedIn.
I'm
like,
screaming. Not LinkedIn.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. God gave me this thing that's like a boldness and like there's just a...
I be messaging people. I say, if you do not put respect on my name, I will message.
No, straight up. So anyways, yes, I did find up operations manager or whatever the hell I searched on LinkedIn.
Hello.
Yes, I did because I have LinkedIn Premium. So yes, I did send the freaking inbox message titled route cancellation inquiry. Hi, just wanted to know what the F is going on. But that's not how I said it.
Did they answer?
He didn't answer. But today I got an email saying that, because I have alerts for the flights and it said a flight in April 2nd to 27th is $800. And they're saying, this is a good price. And I'm like, what? Like, weren't the flights canceled after March? I'm like, maybe it was April. And then I start looking and I see the dates. There's flights.
There's populating them.
There's flights. Yeah, there's flights. There's flights up until August. Like, I swear if these guys play around me and cancel it again.
Oh, you'll be cheesed.
But I'm so excited because I'm like, regardless of if there's a direct correlation or not between me reaching out or whatever. And now there being flights again?
You're like, praise Jah.
My intention is to go. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out because I have a 3-year-old. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to figure out like, I'm trying to tell my grandma, like, I'll pay for your flight. Like,
just come with.
Just babysit.
I want to go there so bad.
It's so nice.
I want to go so
like,
bad.
Everything that you're describing about how people feel on Uber Soca Cruise is legitimately how I feel every time I go to Grenada. I feel beautiful. I feel amazing. People see pictures of me when I'm there or videos.
Glowing?
They're like, yes! They're like, you're glowing.
And so when I'm talking about this being a feeling on Uber Soca Cruise, it's not just Uber Soca Cruise. I feel like that wherever I am in the Caribbean region. Like, I just feel it's like something about the water and the air and the sun.
It's everything.
And the people.
And when you
And
go
the food.
there,
And
when you go there, you're seeing colors. The houses are bright colors. There's trees.
You're seeing
there's
landscape.
waters.
You're seeing hills. You're seeing this. You're seeing,
And there's something about being surrounded by just Black people that just feels so good.
bruh.
I remember when I went to Grenada for 6
No
weeks,
matter
I
if they're
came
cussing
back.
you because you're asking for ketchup at the McDonald's.
Exactly.
or
When I came
the
back
KFC.
here, my brain was like glitching because I wasn't just seeing Black people. I was like,
Isn't it such a
what?
beautiful
I was like,
experience?
this is so weird.
It's such a beautiful
It
experience.
feels so good, and it does feel like more safe or what, even though there's still going to be things that could happen. Just seeing people around that look like you everywhere, in every the government looks like you, the policeman looks like you, everybody looks like you. It's nice. It feels so good. I think a lot of people that live in the Caribbean maybe don't realize how good that feels.
And it's like a lack that we have, right? Like it's like something that's when we were in like, especially like in what's called Canada now, but like when there's all these like white people around, it does something to you. And
Right?
it's like people who don't question your humanity, right? Like it's just like you're around people who are like, okay, we're Black.
Or
like,
don't feel threatened.
Yeah, or don't feel
by
like don't
you
won't
or
cross
you-
the street when you're there. Like clutch their pearls.
Yeah.
They're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they find you a little bit annoying because you're from foreign or something, but like
but honestly, like back home just has this feeling. And I was speaking to one of the band leaders a couple of weeks ago. His name's Hayden, and one of the things that he was saying, he's like, in the Caribbean we have something called love. You know, like
I love that.
he's like, yeah, we have the jackassness and that stuff too, but like we have a lot of love, and it's actually so true.
It's so true.
As soon as I step on, and I know you're talking about land versus water, and like as soon as I step on that land, it feels so good to me. And my same friend that I was talking about that talks about healing and community, I remember one time she was asking me like, what do you feel the most connected to when you go to Grenada? Or I asked her that or something like that. And both of us had the same answer, and it's just the land.
And land is so important, right?
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of like when I mention in my dissertation, like the kind of like relation between land and water, it's not really verses. It's more like a relation. It's thinking a lot from like land here, like land, like the way that like Black people experience land here.
The one thing that from my personal experience, and I've mentioned this before, is that here it feels very dense, very like fast, sharp wavelengths. There's just a lot. I guess it's just like a lot of stimulation like everywhere, and there's not that much color. Everything is very gray all the time. The only time we get some color is like in the summer. But there, and when I say there, I'm talking about Grenada, like that's where I go all the time. It just feels like slow big waves, like slow big energetic waves, and it just feels very like like a deep breath and exhale.
It's like slower.
Yeah, here just feels like there feels like,
and I love that slowness.
Yeah.
Like I love that slowness. Everything is so fast paced here. Everything's so isolated here. Everything's so individualistic here. It's just like nice to go to a place where there's people like you that look like you, that are like, don't care about fast timing, that are just like living their life.
and just naturally come together in community. Like somebody's cooking a pot by the road, somebody's cooking a pot by the river, like what little things like that. And it's like people just gather naturally and come together. Whereas here, it's just even the way that our homes are here, it's like this person's door is on this side and then your neighbor, their door's on that side, like, you know, like those kinds of things where it's just like the entire development of up here is, I guess, to keep people separated, maybe because people being together is more powerful than people being apart,
especially like in a settler nation, right? Like on stolen land, stolen indigenous land.
Yeah.
It's like lots.
Yeah,
There's so much about that requires disappearance
you
and
know,
separation.
maybe what it is too is that this land is like such a point of contention that people can't even really feel relaxed like that here. Maybe. And then on top of that, you have that it's like these big, busy metropolitan cities on top of it, which is just like constant. It's just constantly something happening. There's no time to breathe.
Yeah.
One of the things that my first guest was saying was that he was saying even people's lifespans in these big cities are on average shorter. Yeah. I was like,
That's so sad.
it is
May that not
sad.
be us.
Yeah. Let me just hurry up and get out of here.
Anyone willing to like pay for mine? Need to get out of here.
So like when it comes to your work and kind of finalizing that up, like what are you hoping to, I don't know, like do with that or contribute?
That's such a good question. When I think about what I'm hoping to contribute, I think that the biggest thing is sharing like Black women's stories. in this place that they love, in this place that they want to be in, and what that experience is like for them. I think that is like the thing that holds me and keeps me, is like being able to talk with these beautiful thinkers, these beautiful theorizers who are like everyday Black women who just like went to this place to have fun and to be together. And that is like what I hope to share in the world. It's just like this is a place that has been curated and thought with us in mind. And I just hope that some people think that that's meaningful. It's like nothing grand or...
Yeah. But it really is, though.
It's grand to me. Like, it means so much to me. Like, I'm so grateful for agreed to be interviewed in my study. And I don't take it lightly. Like, the things that they expressed with me or shared with me, I like think that it's really important, the spaces that we create for ourselves, to feel well, to feel healed, to feel good, to feel beautiful, to laugh together.
Yeah.
And part of what you said something earlier just now that gave me pause, I guess. And it was thinking about like the gatherings, like when you said like people cook by the river or cook in a pot on the road or wherever. It's like the way that Black gathering is so policed in Canada. Indigenous gathering policed, like all these kinds of ways that we're like policed, and especially our presence together is like threatening, or it like it's like going to harm somebody. And I think of this space, I think the Uber Soca Cruise, because it's not happening in these kinds of settler lands, but it's happening on water, it allows for Black people to be together in a particular kind of way that's not policed or that's not managed in a particular way. And Black people aren't told that they have to be quieter or the event's going to get shut down, or they're not told that they can't act out in a particular way because it's not proper. They could just be who they are. And there's so few spaces where Black people are able to do that. Yeah. To be who they are on their own terms, be together in the ways that they want to be. I think that's like an important contribution. It's just like share this one of many spaces that we've created for ourselves to be together in a good way.
Cheers to all the future spaces that we'll create, because I think having conversations like this allows us to actually be conscious of like, oh yeah, like making space for ourselves actually really matters.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
So cheers to all the spaces that we will make in the future.
Yeah, cheers to that, and cheers for the space that you've made for people to be able to do and have these kinds of conversations, because you are creating space too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So when it comes to your work, like, is it going to be possible for us to be able to read it or to interact with it in any way when it's done?
Yeah, so inshallah it's done soon. Hopefully it's done in like the next 6 months, and then it'll be, I think, available on like the UFT database. So,
and what is it going to be called? Do you already know?
Called name again? In the Middle of Nowhere.
Oh, okay.
Black women's geography on the water or something like that.
Okay.
And it's called In the Middle of Nowhere because I got the beginning of that title from a couple of my participants who are like, we're just in the middle of nowhere. Like, we're in the middle of nowhere. We're having like the best time ever. And I'm just like, wow, what does it mean to be in the middle of nowhere? And like, it is a place that is somewhere.
Yes, that's what I was just about to say.
It's somewhere, and it matters to us.
Yeah. And it's deep.
And it's deep, and it's not in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, ocean deep.
Yeah.
Bars.
I'm about to change my title that I almost forgot. But yeah, like, what does it mean to be in the middle of nowhere? That's actually somewhere for us, and that's somewhere for enslaved people.
Oh my gosh, in the middle of nowhere, that's somewhere. Black women's experiences.
Oh my God. What if I change my title?
Change it again.
I'm going to think on that.
In the middle of nowhere, that's somewhere. Black women's experiences.
A nowhere that's somewhere. A nowhere, comma, are somewhere.
A-R-E or O-R-E? O-U-R.
O-U-R. Not you?
Yes. Yo, allow me with the spelling. Allow me with the spelling.
If you don't say yes.
Yes. In the middle of nowhere, our somewhere.
Our somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
I think I like it.
No, I like it. I think I like it a lot. I like it. Okay, so when we're looking up your work, we're gonna be looking up.
I'll give you the final title, which will probably like be somewhere similar to that, because I kind of like it. I like a little wordplay.
Okay, can we look up your first and last name in the database?
So you're gonna have to look up my first and last name, but you're also gonna have to look up the title.
You have other work?
Yeah, but also it's just gonna like it's not that I have other work. Like, you have so much work. I have to like use this
Scroll
to page 3 of Google search. No, it's more like you just have to like to be able to find in the database.
Specific?
It has to be specific.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll give you the title.
Well, I'm excited for when you do have the time. I'm probably going to release this before you give me a title.
Yeah.
To be completely honest.
Yeah, because it's like Sunday, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to us being able to interact with that work. Like when you do have it, I would love to like link it in the description and
Or
stuff
maybe
like
I can
that,
just like
or
come
whatever.
back when it's done.
Yeah, and we can have a chat about that then.
Yeah.
Whatever, we can do whatever.
Not me inviting myself back.
Yeah,
for
I
round
know.
2.
What the hell is she doing?
It's my show now. In the middle of nowhere or somewhere. Welcome.
This is a hostile takeover. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun.
It's been so fun.
And I'm so excited to interact with your work a little bit more and to really read the accounts of the participants and the people that you interviewed and to, buy my Uber Soca Cruise ticket.
You better get that quick. It is so good. Y'all, this is like a shameless plug for Uber Soca. It is good. It is really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You sold me, honestly.
And I wanted to go to Grenada Carnival. I wanted to go to Spice Mouse forever. So
yeah. Okay. So you're my. You see how God works? You're my Uber Soca Cruise plug. I'm your Spice Mouse plug, and it's just gonna be vibes.
I don't really have any connections to Uber Soca.
It doesn't matter. Me neither. Whatever. Like
I just put you on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just vibes on vibes.
Vibes on vibes on vibes.
And are somewhere in the middle of nowhere and feeling free and amazing in our bodies.
Yes, and feeling beautiful and lovely and good.
And glowing. Yeah. Anytime people see us, I don't know what that glow is or where it comes from.
I don't get it. I don't have it now.
Okay, like when I'm here, like
I'm
this
gray.
time of year, my skin,
I'm gray.
It starts getting yellow.
Gray.
Like it's just
gray. I'm flaking. It's bad.
It's just the recharge.
It's
just
a recharge.
The natural recharge.
Like where we're supposed to be.
The natural recharge. And it comes from nature. It comes from the people. It comes from the food. Like
it
you're
comes
saying.
from the water. It comes from all the things.
It's just like, why did we leave, guys?
That's
why did we leave?
I honestly ask my mom all the time because she left when she was 17. I was like, why did you left St. Lucia? Like, why did you leave there?
This is what I always, and I keep having said this. I'm like, guys, why was there no exit strategy?
Like, why didn't you consult? I wasn't born yet, but like, could you have not thought of me? Like, I don't, like, I would have loved to live on island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My life would look different, but
I think a lot of people are kind of at the point, well, I don't know, maybe it's just people I talk to, but it's like at the point where it's like trying to figure out how can I be here, but then have the access to go home and like get my recharge, kind of like what we were talking about with Carnival, and then coming back and then recharging again. What a life that would be.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
It would be
I would definitely do a solid 3 to 4 months.
And then I think about like, I feel like a lot of guilt too.
Why?
I don't know, because I know that like the Caribbean region is also one where some people can't leave.
Yeah.
So then like, who am I to like go back for 4 months and be like, I'm here on vacation and I'm going to go back and then I'm going to come back to your like land that I claim. But
so maybe like, when you go back, like thinking about the ways that you can connect with community members and seeing like the ways that you can assist with like initiatives and stuff like that.
Ethical
yeah, that way it doesn't just feel like you're just like
tourist vibes.
This has been so much
Eating my
fun.
patty from Yad.
This has been so much fun. Thank you
fun.
so much for joining me, and thank you for talking to me about your work.
Thanks for hosting me.
Yeah, I look forward to learning more about our beautiful ancestral reconnecting and peaceful experiences in the middle of nowhere on the Atlantic Ocean.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.